I was interviewing Lord Jamar from Brand Nubian, and we were talking about the whole Bill Cosby thing, and I was talking about how Bill Cosby was a father figure to a lot of black kids growing up.
Now see, James was somebody that a lot of people in the hood really looked up to as a father figure. You know what I mean? Like this, just the strength of James and the honor and the moral code that James had and all of that type of stuff. Even while he was struggling and all that type of stuff, and his strength, that was some shit that a lot of black America could really identify with as a father figure. It seemed like the Cosby Show was more of what, white America or bougie black America wanted you to see as a father figure.
Well, that's understandable because of it's easier to identify with James Evans and a family living in the projects than it would for most African Americans, for most people, than it would be to identify with the Huxtables, where both members of the family are very successful professionals. So I can understand that.
How important was it to have a role like that on television, and knowing what kind of impact it had to black kids all around the world?
Well, it was important enough that it led to me taking some positions that didn't go well with the producers. I had two other children on the show, as you know, besides JJ. There was Bernadette Stannis who portrayed Thelma, my only daughter, and her aspirations were to become a surgeon. Ralph Carter, who portrayed Michael, the militant midget, we called him that because of his political activity, he aspired to become a Supreme Court justice. And I felt there was a tremendous amount of mileage and humor and comedy that could be gotten out of those two characters if we looked deeply into their aspirations and followed them. But the writers chose to put the emphasis on JJ in the chicken hat and him saying Dy-no-mite every 2 or 3 pages. Some people construed that as jealousy on my part. I wasn't jealous. I'm happy for anybody who can bring more comedy and more drama to a show and improve the quality of it. So that was my point in wanting to get more emphasis put on my other two children. I'd like to, knowing that a lot of kids were watching, I felt a certain responsibility as the father of the family to match the passion that Esther Roll, as the mother of the family, had in wanting to see her kids do well, all of her children do well. So that was a bone of contention with myself and the producers, and we never were able to resolve it, which is why they killed me off of the show in, I think, the 2nd or the 3rd season. But I didn't leave with any animosity or anything. My whole intent was to try and improve the quality of the show. And a lot of people said, well, that was pretty stupid on your part. You should have just hung in there. And quite frankly, I couldn't abide the direction that the show was going in. So it's just as well they killed me off, because it wasn't long after that I was available for and offered the part of Kunta Kinte in Roots, and the rest is kind of history.
Which totally eclipsed A Good Time. Oh,
Thank
my
you.
goodness, Roots goes down in history. You were incredible in that, man.
Thank you. Well, it was an extremely well-written project coming out of a bestseller by Alex Haley, and it encouraged people all over the world to check out their respective ancestry. So he made a major social move when he produced that book, and subsequently when David Walper produced the television series.
You won an Emmy for that, right?
No, I was nominated, but Louis Gossett justifiably won the Emmy for his role as Fiddler. And he was a wonderful actor, but then everybody in the cast was superb. It was just a tremendous undertaking. We had actors from all over the industry, established actors, coming to the set whenever they got a chance off from whatever project they were working in to see if there was anything at all that they could do. I mean, these were established stars that knew there was something very special going on at the David Walper set, and everybody wanted to participate. Everybody wanted to be a part of it.
Are you a hip-hop fan?
To a degree. My favorite hip-hop artist or hip-hop composer is sitting right next to me.
Wow. He said that.
Yeah, I said it, and I meant it.
Wow.
Yeah, I said it.
Kendrick Lamar's first single off his new album was called King Kunta.
Is that right? Well, I'm honored that he would flatter me as such. Maybe it'll help kids remember roots, which I think should be an obligatory part of every curriculum in schools. Every school should have a copy of Roots made available, regardless of the ethnicity of the school.
Absolutely. I mean, do you feel that Black history is downplayed in schools these days?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think we're deserving of a little bit more than 1 month a year. You know, February. I think it should be observed year round. That's my feeling, anyway. And most of the educators that I talk to feel the same way. There's no reason why it should be restricted to just the 1 month out of the year.
Yeah, well, I also feel that like the brutality of that era really is not shown very much. I mean, like, for example, you had 12 Years a Slave, which I thought did a pretty good job of it, but you very rarely see movies or TV series that really focus on that.
And the truth of it is, had we really genuinely depicted the bestiality of slavery and the ramifications of it, the psychological damage that was done, it never would have gotten on the air. Had we showed the true physical horrors of slavery and what was done to those who were captured and enslaved and put on ships, it never would have made the network cut. They would have said, "Oh no, this is too brutal. We can't show this." So quite frankly, the version that ultimately made it to the small screen was watered down to make it palatable for the masses.
Yeah, well, I was actually talking to a very political rapper, that I'm friends with, a guy named Mortal Technique, and he said the one thing that you really never see on film when it comes from that era is the breeding farms.
These breeding places where it was like 10 or 5 to 10 quote unquote bucks is what they called them, right? And they would have these young girls, which were from ages 10 to 20, forcibly mate with these men that they kept in cages like animals, which is what they regarded them as when you look at the sickness of that so-called civilized society, that shining beacon of democracy that this country is supposed to represent.
Exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about. In fact, I always had an issue with the fact that years ago, there was a very famous sportscaster. His name escapes me at the moment, but he was fired because he espoused the same theory that today's athletes were the end result of that interbreeding, which is why African Americans so dominate sports, because of the breeding that went on. And the fact, well, just from Darwin's theory, only the strongest survived. Only those that were strong enough to survive the Middle Passage actually made it to the American shores or to whichever island they were dropped off on as slave labor. The rest perished in the oceans in the Middle Passage. So when you've got a test like that of only the strong surviving, and then you breed the strongest women with the strongest men, you're obviously going to have a generation of superlative athletes. And he was Jimmy, I can't think of his name.
Jimmy the Greek.
Jimmy the Greek, right, exactly, Jimmy the Greek. And when he espoused that, he was subsequently fired. And I said, wait, why would you fire a man for telling the truth? He wasn't casting aspersions on anybody for doing it. He was just relating a historical fact. And yes, there were breeding farms where one slave owner would get his biggest, strongest, healthiest females to breed with the biggest, strongest, healthiest males from an adjoining or a nearby plantation, and as a result of that, hopefully have strong, valuable slave children, not unlike the way they breed horses. I mean, look at the stud fee for American Pharaoh is going to be through the roof because of the fact that he won the Triple Crown, so they'll breed him with like mares in hopes that they can get another Triple Crown winner. So it's the same thing.
Now, speaking of sports, you come from a history of sports, right? You used to be a football player, right?
Allegedly, easy. It was never confirmed. No, he's referring to my very lackluster professional career in which I got cut from 13 teams in the Canadian League, the American League, the National Football League, you name it. See, when I was a kid, I thought the only way I was going to get to escape the economic strata that we were locked into, that is me and my mom were locked into, was through athletics. So I dreamed, a wrong dream for me, of being a professional football player, and I that's all I concentrated on. And it's ironic, but the very last team that I tried out for, or at least a team that I tried out for twice, the Kansas City Chiefs, then coach Hank Stram, the fantastic coach of the Chiefs, he told me to my face, he said, "John, you are not a football player. You are a young man who happens to be playing football." But after he saw me read a poem that I'd written to the entire team upon being released from the team, and he saw their reaction, which was a standing ovation, he said, "I think you have another calling." Well, the name of the poem was The Turk, which is a euphemism for that guy that comes in the middle of the night, knocks on your room door and says, "Amos, the coach wants to see you and bring your playbook." That's code for you've been released. We don't know where you're going, but you can't hang around here too much longer. Get out of camp. So through football, as unsuccessful as I was, I found my life's calling, which is performing and writing, and allowing me to meet people like Easy, where I can enjoy his work and not wake up the next.
What do you mean?
Well, it's mutual. It's mutual respect. So you've got gifts, musical gifts that I never dreamed of having. So all I can do is be a big fan and listen, and you are worth listening to. And your compositions, let's face it, you made hip hop. You made a tremendous impact in the music world and in the social world as a result of your compositions, and you're working with other known artists.
Thank you.
So thank you for the relationship.
That's what I mean. We were dealing with those issues that's happening right now in 2015 and 1990.
Were you with him when that happened?
We was living together.
You were living together.
He had gone to the bank, came home all scarred up, mad. I took the pictures.
And when Meek said it, he's not turning his back on the hood. I guess what he's saying is, you doing all this, man. Like, you doing this to blow the fuck up and to move on and bring your dudes out of it with you.